Let AI help you create, summarize, and analyze your documents, messages, and data. Microsoft 365 Copilot is the version of Microsoft's AI assistant that can supercharge your Office applications, including Word, Excel, PowerPoint, Outlook, and Teams. Copilot in Microsoft 365 also includes the Business Chat, which is similar to other AI assistants that you've seen, but it can answer questions using private information from your organization, including your messages, meetings, and documents. I'm Nick Brazzi, and I'm excited to show you how Copilot can help you be more productive and more creative using secure data from your organization and some easy natural language prompts. A quick introduction is all it takes to get started with Microsoft 365 Copilot. There are different versions of Microsoft Copilot, including a free version that anybody can use at the website copilot.microsoft.com. But the version that we are covering in this workshop is Microsoft 365 Copilot. This is a set of AI tools designed to help people in the workplace. Microsoft 365 Copilot is not free. It is a subscription that must be purchased by your organization. First, you must have an existing Microsoft 365 account with a business, school, or similar organization. Generally, this means that your employer or school has assigned a Microsoft account to you and your coworkers, which you use for Microsoft services and applications like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook. You can see a list of the specific Microsoft 365 licenses that are eligible here on this website. If you are a member of one of these organizations, then your Microsoft administrator can also purchase the license from Microsoft 365 Copilot for you and your coworkers. So if you and your coworkers don't have the Microsoft 365 Copilot features, or if you don't know whether you have them, you should talk to your administrator to see if they can add that license. This Microsoft administrator is usually somebody in the IT department at your company or school. So, the tools that we will see in this workshop are only for people in an organization. However, if you are an individual not associated with an organization like this, you may want to look into Copilot Pro. That is a separate subscription for individual users, which will also enable AI tools inside of Office applications, like Word, Excel, PowerPoint, and Outlook, but for an individual account. Of course, we're not covering Copilot Pro in this workshop, but for more information and context about Copilot Pro and other Copilot products, I encourage you to watch my other workshop called What is Copilot? Get started with Microsoft's Everyday AI Companion. And if you do have a Microsoft 365 account with the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, make sure you're ready to sign into that account as we go through the rest of this workshop. As we start using Copilot on the web, it's very important that you recognize that things change. Copilot is updated and changed very often. In the past, I would recommend you start at the website copilot.microsoft.com, but now the tools on this website are really only intended for individual consumers. For business, enterprise, and education users, you should go to office.com and sign in with your Microsoft 365 account. After signing in, you will see a button for Copilot on the sidebar on the left. You can click that and start working with Copilot. Or it may be easier to go here directly by going to Microsoft365.com/chat or office.com/chat. There's a chat field at the bottom where you can ask questions or make requests. But before we use that, you should look at this switch at the top, where you can switch between work or web. If you switch to the web mode, this is similar to the free version of Copilot. This will use publicly available information from the web to answer your questions and your requests. So using the chat field, I'm going to ask Copilot to describe the changes and trends in residential mortgage interest rates in Northern California over the past 10 years. And Copilot can answer that question using information from the internet. Sometimes you will see these small numbers. These are citations, which are links that you can click to take you to the website where it found this information. And these chat conversations are protected with enhanced security that the free version of Copilot does not have. When I point at this shield near the top right, it shows that I have enterprise data protection, so my requests will not be saved and will not be used to train the AI language models. But that's just the web mode. If you switch to the work mode, then questions you ask or requests you make in the chat will be answered using information from your organization. So you can get information about your own calendar, your coworkers, your team communication, or files that have been shared with you on OneDrive or SharePoint. This experience is called Business Chat or Biz Chat, and it's one of the main benefits of Microsoft 365 Copilot. So, I'll ask a question that can only be answered using information from my organization. This could be something as simple as, when is my next meeting? This uses secure information from my calendar to answer that question. But you can also ask questions or make requests related to specific people in your organization or documents that have been shared with you. I'll ask which executives are mentioned in the. Then, to refer to a specific document, you can type the / key followed by the name of that person or document, and it searches through all of the documents that you have stored or have been shared with you on OneDrive or SharePoint. It found the document that I want, so I'll select that and send the question. Copilot gives me an answer which refers to a secure document that was shared with me by somebody in my organization. And I can ask follow-up questions. I'll ask if I've ever received an email from any of them. Copilot remembers the context of the previous question and gives me the answer. So now I'm getting information about that shared document, along with information about coworkers in my organization and my own email communication. Now, in these responses, I still see citations, these small numbers. And again, this is where Copilot found this information, but it did not find this information on public web pages. It found it in my email. So I can click one of these citations and it will take me right to the email message where it found this. I'll just close this and go back to Copilot. At the bottom of the response, it says 3 of 30. So I can continue asking follow-up questions or just keep chatting with Copilot, and it will remember the context for up to 30 responses. Just make sure you look at this number on your screen because that limit could change in the future. And if you ever want to clear that context and start a completely new conversation, you can click the New Chat button up at the top. That resets the conversation and Copilot will not remember what you were talking about before. However, you can click this button near the top right to open the Chat History panel. Now, this is not a list of individual questions, it's a list of conversations. So I can select one of these to see all of the questions and responses from that conversation, and I could continue that chat from here. With the Business Chat, everything is protected by the security and privacy safeguards in Microsoft 365. You will never be able to access another person's messages, calendar, or other private information. Copilot will only show you information that you have permission to access. With Microsoft 365 Copilot, you can use AI tools inside of Office applications. In this video, we will see how to work with Copilot in Microsoft Word. I have a document open in Word. You can click the Account button near the top right, and you should make sure that you are signed in with the account that has the Microsoft 365 Copilot subscription. With the document open, you should make sure that the Home ribbon is active, then look for the Copilot button in the ribbon. When you click that button, a panel opens on the right. You'll see some suggested prompts. Asking for a summary is a great option, or you can click the chat field and write in a more detailed request. I'll ask if any of the Globe Bank executives have prior experience with other financial institutions. Then I'll send that question. So instead of reading the entire document to find this information, Copilot can find it for me. And Copilot will respond to lots of different prompts and questions, so I encourage you to try some ideas. But here in Word, there is another way to work with Copilot. I'm going to select some text in this document. With that text selected, a Copilot button appears to the left. This gives you a few options. I could choose Make Changes, then describe the change that I want. I'll ask if it can make this shorter. Then I'll click Generate. So this text with the blue highlight is the suggested rewrite. If you click Keep It, it will replace the original text with the rewrite, or you can click the trash can button if you don't want to keep it. The button with a circle of arrows will generate a new version of the rewrite, or you can click this text field, then describe more changes that you want. I'll ask if it can get this down to 2 sentences with an informal tone. Then click the Send button. So you can try to ask for whatever rewrite you want using natural language, and usually it can help. For now, I don't want to keep this change, so I'll click the trash can button. And once again, I'll select that text, then click the Copilot button. And if you choose Auto Rewrite, it will simply attempt to write a new version of this text with no other prompts. You can click Replace if you want to use this rewrite, or simply close this panel if you don't want to use it. Or click this Control button at the bottom of the panel to choose the tone you want for the rewrite. For now, I'll just close this panel. And next, I'll scroll to the bottom of the document, then click on an empty line. And again, I see the Copilot button on the left. You'll also see this when you start a new blank document. If you click that, it opens a panel that can help you write a draft. You can use natural language to write whatever request you have, and the draft will be better if you provide more information. I'll ask it to write product descriptions comparing the different solar panel products from the company Kinetico. After typing in your request, you can just click Generate. And of course, Copilot will use information that it finds online to generate a draft. But I'm asking for information about one of my clients. Because we are using Microsoft 365 Copilot, it has the ability to search for information from messages or documents in my organization. Or, before you click Generate, you can reference a specific file. You can type the / key, then start typing the name of the file. And based on what I typed, it found a PowerPoint presentation on my OneDrive. And you can reference as many as 3 files in each request. But for now, I just want to see what happens if I don't reference a file. So I'll remove that referenced file from my request, then I'll click Generate. And here's that draft based on information it found from my Microsoft 365 account. You can click the trash can in this panel if you don't like the draft, or click Keep It if you do want to keep it, or use this field to ask for changes. Remember, this information may contain some errors. You should always review and make revisions, and only use these drafts as a starting point. Copilot can help you work in Excel, making it much easier to sort, filter, analyze data, and more. But before we get started, Copilot and Excel will only work with files stored on one of Microsoft's online storage tools. You could use Excel on the web, but if you use the Excel desktop application, when you open your document, you cannot open a file from your computer. You'll need to open a file from OneDrive or SharePoint. With the spreadsheet open, there is an autosave option near the top left. That option is not there if you use Excel on the web. But if you use the desktop application, autosave must be enabled before you can use Copilot and Excel. Next, make sure the Home ribbon is active and you will see the Copilot button near the top right. You can click that to open the Copilot Assistant. There are some suggested prompts at the top, and these are great to get started and learn how Copilot works. And you can also click this View Prompts button for more options. But for now, I'll just write a few of my own prompts using natural language. Now, this spreadsheet contains a product inventory. One of the columns in the sheet is Suggested Retail, so I will ask Copilot to sort by retail price. Now, it does not immediately sort the sheet. Instead, it analyzes the data, then shows the action that it thinks I want. This gives me the chance to check what it's suggesting. This looks right, so I'll click Apply. And now the table is sorted, so the items with the lowest retail price are at the top. And I can always ask follow-up questions, and Copilot will remember the context. So I'll tell it to reverse that. And it shows the suggested change, and I'll click Apply. And now it has reversed the sorting order, so the most expensive items are at the top. And it also offers an undo button right here in the chat, so I could undo that if it were wrong. Next, let's try a filter. There are lots of different types of products in this inventory sheet. I see inverters, batteries, solar panels, and more. I'll ask it to filter to only show batteries. Again, it shows me the suggested change, and I'll click Apply. And now it's only showing items that have batteries listed in that category column. And it's still sorted by retail price, so you can combine sorting and filtering. I'll reset by telling Copilot to clear the filter and apply that change. And let's finish by asking Copilot to analyze this data to show me some specific information. There are several items that have the category of inverters, several batteries, several different types of solar panels, and so on. I'll ask it to show me the total number of units from each category. And now it's showing me this chart. And this is a pivot chart. Now, I don't really know how to make a pivot chart, but Copilot does. I could have asked Copilot specifically to make a pivot chart, and that also would have worked, but I didn't need to use that language. It understood the analysis I was asking for in plain language, and Copilot suggested a pivot chart. If I want a pivot table instead, I could ask for that in a follow-up question. And again, I'll just use natural language. I'll say, give me that in a table. And here is a pivot table. I want to keep this, so I can click this button to add it to a new sheet in this document. And now I have a separate sheet, a separate tab in this document. And in that new sheet, I have the table. And when I click somewhere in that table, Excel opens up the pivot table controls on the right. So this is a pivot table. If you know how to work with and modify pivot tables, you can do that here. But you don't have to, because Copilot was able to analyze my data based on my plain language requests. I'll click the tab to go back to the original sheet in this document, but my pivot table is still saved in that new tab. And from here, I encourage you to experiment with your own prompts or try suggested prompts to get an idea of what Copilot can do in Excel. Copilot can be used in PowerPoint to help you draft new presentations or new slides, or it can be used to make improvements to a presentation that you already have. From the welcome screen in PowerPoint, I will start a new blank presentation. There is a Copilot button above the slides, and you can click that for many of the most commonly used Copilot actions. Or, when the Home ribbon is active, there's a Copilot button in the ribbon. You can click that to open the Copilot panel. Now you could try one of these suggested prompts. I'll start with one that says create a presentation about, and in the chat field I need to finish that sentence. So I'll type best practices for financial management for small businesses. And I'll give it some time to generate something. And now I have a starting draft of a presentation created by Copilot. You can think of this as a template particularly customized for your topic. Even if the information isn't quite right for your presentation, the design or the layout may give you a good starting point. Next, let's make another blank presentation. And I'll open the Copilot panel. And remember, the more information you provide, the more effective the draft will be. And a great way to provide that information is to reference a Microsoft Word document that already contains the relevant information. So I'll type make a presentation from, then I want to refer to a document that I already have. You can type the / key followed by the name of a document, and this searches through your documents from OneDrive or SharePoint. It found the document that I wanted, so I'll select that, then send the request. So that made a new presentation using the information from the Word document that I provided. And Copilot can also help you add individual slides. I want to add a new slide after slide number 3, so I'll select slide 3, then I'll ask the Copilot chat to create a slide about choosing a financial planner. And now I have that new slide. Take a look at the draft text to see if you can revise the draft for your needs. But even if the text isn't right, this is usually a great way to get a layout or a picture that matches the slide that you want to build. And finally, I'll open a presentation that's already built so we can use Copilot to modify an existing presentation. I'll open the Copilot panel. You may see the pre-made prompts to summarize the presentation, and if not, you could type that into the chat box. You can ask direct questions about the content of the presentation, or maybe you have a long presentation with lots of slides and you want to add some organization. So I'll ask Copilot to organize this presentation. And when that's finished, you can look at the list of slides on the left and see that they are now grouped and organized in sections. These sections are defined by the content in those slides, and you can click the arrow next to each section to open or close it. So try these options and experiment with your own prompts to make new presentations or improve the presentations that you already have. Copilot in Outlook can help you draft email messages or get summaries of messages that you've received. Copilot works in Outlook for Windows, Outlook for Mac, and even Outlook on the web. First, I'll select a message in my inbox, and above the message there is an option to summarize it using Copilot. Now, this may not work on some very short messages, and it's really most useful when you have an ongoing conversation with several messages and replies, like this one. So I'll click that button to get the summary, and instead of reading through all the messages and replies in this conversation, I can read the summary, and I will probably find the information that I need. Next, let's compose a new message. I'll add somebody to the recipient field, then type in the subject line. And when you're ready to actually write the message, Copilot can save you time by writing a draft for you. First, make sure your cursor is in the body of the message, and in the ribbons at the top, make sure that the message ribbon is selected. Then you should see the Copilot button, and when you click that, a menu opens, and you can choose Draft with Copilot. Or there's another way to do this. Back in the body of the message, before you type anything else, you can type the / key to open this menu, and you can choose Draft with Copilot here. And in this field, you can describe the draft that you want. The more detail you give, the more effective the draft will be. So I'll type, "We will be posting job listings for new financial advisors soon. Write an email to Stuart outlining the main requirements for this role." Then I'll click Generate. Take a close look at the draft that it generates. If you need something different, you can click the Retry button, and that will generate a new draft based on the same prompt. There's also a button here which opens a menu where you can make changes to the length or tone of the draft. You may see this button or you may see these options in another menu depending on whether you're using Outlook on Windows or on a Mac. When you have a draft that you like, you can click Keep It, and it places that text in the body of your email message. Now, you should always review and revise these drafts. In this case, Copilot found the information it needed from the internet. But I have a nice structure to the draft and some very useful information that I can use as a starting point. And finally, Copilot can help you revise messages that you write yourself. So I'll go to my drafts folder and open a draft that I was working on earlier. So I've already typed my message here, and at the top in the message ribbon, I'll click the Copilot button and choose Coaching by Copilot. This will review the text that you've written and may give you several suggestions for how you can improve your message. You can review these edits, or if you just want to apply all of the suggested changes, you can click the Apply All Suggestions button. And if you want, you can click the Replace button to replace your original text with this revision. These tools have the potential to really streamline the time you spend in Outlook by summarizing incoming messages and helping you write the messages that you send. There are several Copilot tools in Microsoft Teams, so let's take a quick look at some of those features. First, Copilot can help you revise messages that you write in Teams. So you could start from a team channel and click the button to post a new message, then type your message. And at the bottom of the message field, there is a Copilot button, which opens the rewrite panel. In the Adjust menu, you can choose a different tone or length, or you can simply click Rewrite to see the revision that Copilot suggests. If you don't want to keep it, you can just close this panel, or you can click Replace if you do want to keep the revised version. So you can do that in a team channel, or if you go to the chat section and select a chat conversation, you will see that same Copilot rewrite option is available for messages in a chat as well. Next, we'll see how Copilot can help you by offering summaries or answering questions about your chat conversations. So I'm already in the chat section, and I've selected this conversation with my coworker, and I'm looking for some specific information that we've discussed in the past. Instead of scrolling back and reading through all of these messages, I can ask Copilot. I see the Copilot button near the top right, and that opens the Copilot panel. And you can ask for a summary or ask it to find action items from your conversation. I'll ask it to give me highlights from the past 30 days. And I get a summary of everything we've discussed recently. Now, you can also click More Prompts to see more suggestions of things that you can ask, but I'll ask a direct question. I'll ask, what is the status of the Kinetico contracts? And it answers the question and even includes citation links. I can click a citation to go to the exact message where it found that information. And you can also ask follow-up questions, and you can have an ongoing chat conversation with the AI. And finally, you can use the business chat inside of Microsoft Teams. When you're in the chat section in Teams, there's a big Copilot option at the top of your chat list. This is completely different from the Copilot button that we used inside of a chat with a specific person. When you select this big Copilot option, you can chat directly with Copilot itself. So this is not giving you information about a specific conversation. Instead, this is business chat. Remember at the beginning of this workshop when we were on the Copilot website and there was a switch for work or web? When you choose the work mode, you can ask questions about your schedule, your teammates, your documents, and other information in your organization. And this is the same experience you get when you choose the main Copilot chat in Teams. This is business chat. So I'll ask it to summarize the marketing review meeting this week. And it gives me that summary using private, secure information about a meeting I had in Teams with my coworkers. And by the way, asking for a summary of a meeting like this will only work if that meeting was recorded. Now, you are not limited to questions about your organization here. I could ask something like, "How is the weather in London?" And Copilot can still answer that question using information from the public internet. But take a look at this. You can click the Plugins button in the chat field, and you see that I have the plugin for web content enabled. If you do not want Copilot to use information from the public internet here in the business chat, you can disable this plugin. So if you spend a lot of time working in Microsoft Teams, this may be your best way to work with the business chat. In another video, we saw several Copilot features in Teams, but there's one more feature we need to see. Copilot can offer AI recaps and summaries of meetings in Teams. So I'll go over to the calendar section, and I'm going to start a meeting. And for now, I'm just going to be in a meeting alone, but we can still see everything that we need to see. And I'm going to resize the window so we can see all of the buttons up at the top. For Copilot to offer an AI summary of your meetings, you will need to record those meetings. To do that, you can click the More button up at the top, then go to Record and Transcribe. So I have the option to start a recording or start the transcript. I'll just click on the option to start recording, and it tells me that both the recording and the transcription have started. And that's what I need. If the transcript is not running, you should make sure you go back to that menu and start the transcription. The AI assistant depends on that transcription to find information for you. Also, that recording and transcript must run for at least 5 minutes before the AI will have enough material to work with. Now, you can feel free to close this transcription panel if you don't want to see it, and it will still be recording in the background. Or you can go to the More menu to Record and Transcribed, and you can choose Show Transcript if you do want to see it. Now at this point, anybody in the meeting can click this Copilot button up at the top. It will open up the Copilot panel and they can ask questions using the chat field. So you could ask for a summary of the meeting, or you could ask what you missed if you joined a meeting late, or you can ask about specific topics discussed in the meeting. But the way most people use this is to get a summary or ask questions after the meeting has ended. So I'm actually going to leave this meeting. And of course, the recording will stop when everybody leaves the meeting. After a meeting has ended, there are a few ways to get to the AI summary. One option is to go to the chat section. So you can select the chat button on the sidebar on the left, and your meeting will probably be listed here along with your chat history. Here is the meeting that I just left, but this is a meeting that I had with some of my coworkers earlier today. This one is more interesting. So you can select the meeting that you want to see information about it, including the transcript, or you can open the recording from here. Or if you don't see the meeting listed here, that's no problem. You can go back over to the calendar section, and you may have to use the arrows in the top left to skip back through the calendar to when that meeting happened. But once you find the meeting on your calendar, as long as the meeting has ended, you can double-click it to see information about it. And you get the same summary options. So you can open the recording or the transcript from here. And at the top, there is a recap tab. And here you can see the AI-generated notes, which summarize the major points discussed in the meeting. Copilot uses the content of the recording and the transcript to generate these notes. You may find what you need here in the AI notes, but you can also ask the AI direct questions about the meeting. I see the Copilot button in the top right, and I can click that to open the chat panel and ask a question that Copilot will only be able to answer using information from the meeting transcript. I'll ask, what are the challenges our banks have faced with the new online banking system? And Copilot is able to answer that question based on the meeting transcript. So with the Microsoft 365 Copilot license, you have the extra ability to ask questions or ask for summaries in the AI chat while the meeting is still in progress, or from the recap tab after the meeting is finished.